right, welcome back. It's still VOP this morning. Now, on Monday, President Bola Tinubu criticized Atiku Abubakar, labeling him as a demagogue, an anarchist, and a kleptocrat. In response to the former vice president's outburst over the Supreme Court's rejection of new certificate forgery evidence that would have nullified Tinubu's electoral victory. Now, Tinubu, in a statement through Bayo Ononuga, one of his aides, was reacting to a press conference on Monday where Mr. Abubakar berated the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for failing to disqualify Mr. Tinubu and the Supreme Court's failure to admit evidence of his certificate forgery. Now, taking the quote, it says, we were wrong to expect, this is words from Atiku Abubakar. It says, we were wrong to expect that Atiku, okay, no, this is Bayo Ononuga. We were wrong to expect that Atiku at 77 would play the statesman and sportsman and accept with equanimity the verdict of the highest court and the people of Nigeria, Tinubu said through Bayo Ononuga. Instead, he unashamedly constituted himself into a demagogue and anarchist in the way and manner he sought to pull down and delegitimize all the institutions of state, all in a futile bid to achieve what he could not get via the ballot box, end quote. Now, right here in the studio to discuss this, we have Barrister Eze Eluchie, who is, of course, a public affairs commentator. And we do expect Chukwuma Okoro, a journalist and public affairs commentator, to join us virtually as we go into this conversation. Now, let me start with you now, Barrister Eluchie. This is a jab at Atiku. And initially, after the verdict, Nigerians felt, okay, Atiku will retire because he had tried a lot of times and unfortunately failed. And this felt like, 77, this felt like last trial. But he has said that he's not going anywhere. He will continue to be the opposition. And here is the jab coming from the APC. Is this a little bit too harsh, hitting at Atiku this way, calling him a demagogue?
Well, thank you very much for having me in your studios. The Onanuga fellow you mentioned is more of an attack dog. And then you expect attack dogs to do what he's just done, to spew out a lot of rubbish. What Atiku did by going through the judiciary, exploring the judicial process, was on behalf of the millions of Nigerians who felt disenfranchised, those who were stabbed in the eyes in Surulere, those like us who waited in the queues till almost 9 o'clock in the night in Owerri to cast our votes, and those votes were never uploaded. Those who are in River State, whose votes were just thrown into the rivers. Those in Lagos State, who were told they couldn't vote because they were from specific areas. So what Atiku did by exploring the legal process was actually to speak up for the millions of Nigerians. So the rabid attacks by Mr. Onanuga on that person, because all of us could not have gone to the tribunal. It was only those who were candidates who could approach the courts. So what Atiku and P2B and those who ventured to the court was on behalf of Nigerians. So to begin to lambast them and lampoon them for taking processes that Nigerians even asked them would have preferred them not to take. Because what Nigerians were actually looking for after the elections was, okay, let us damn the consequences and put a stop to all this nonsense. But these men, the Democrats that they are, they opted to go through the legitimate course, which is through the court processes. And it was unfortunate that the court processes came out a sham. Up to the highest court in the land. The judgment, as a lawyer, I can call it a sham, because that is basically what it is.
Well, we'll get into the judgment.
Yes. So Onanuga, you don't quote such characters because, like I said, he's an attack dog. You won't expect an attack dog.
Okay. We will actually not refer to him as a dog. But let's have Chukwuma Okoro now. Chukwuma, good morning to you. Welcome to VOP this morning. Now, demagogue, that's a statement being used to describe the person of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. for the comments that he made. Demagogue being someone who takes advantage of popular um, prejudice to, and false claim to we whip up the sentiments of the people and lay claim to power. Now, how do you react to this assertion?
Good morning, Moses. Good morning, the lawyer. Good morning, Masinachi, and good morning, viewers. Moses, my reaction is that if I had two boxes, I would just exchange where the president is and take him to where Atiku is, and now take Atiku back to where the president is. That is, I'm going to reverse their positions.
Why so?
Because for Bayo Ononuga, on behalf of the president, to call Atiku Abubakar a demagogue, an anarchist, kleptocrat, and all sorts of unprintable names, signals a new low, a very new low in the political behavior of our elites. It's unfortunate that the president is coming out this way. Like I said, if I had a position, I would just reverse their positions. If you talk about who is an anarchist between the two of them, I think it is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, right from the start. From his Emilokon premise, it is my turn. How can the presidency of a nation be your turn? Beyond that, through the process, he compromised the process, right from the primaries up onto the campaigns, where he said, snatch it, grab it, whatever it takes to have it, make sure you take it from them. What more is anarchist than that? And after that, every single thing the president has done has shown that, in fact, he is the demagogue, because he has taken advantage. He's using the state power to compromise state institutions. The judiciary has been compromised. The legislature has been compromised. The executive is under his thumb. What is more anarchist than that? From what the president did, right from the first day he was sworn in, it's a natural call to anarchy. Look at his appointments. Look at all his appointments. 75% of the appointments, apart from the ministerial slots that are constitutionally given to each state, every other appointment, the IGP, customs, CBN, finance, name it, all the juicy positions have gone to his southwest people. Moses, is there what else is a definition of anarchy apart from that? Because apparently what the president is doing is to provoke other parts of the country. The north is already kicking, south is kicking, southeast is kicking, and it's a call to anarchy, because if things go the way they are going, I'm very sure the level of our fragility, if you look at the fragile state index, we are in a very bad position. And if you look at the cohesion indicator, which talks about security apparatus, factionalized elite, and what I can't remember on top of my head. But we are gradually tending towards that. And for Atiku, I think it's payback time, because if he had done what he was supposed to do in the first instance, probably Bola Tinubu would have ended his political career as a governor who was booted out of office. This same Bayo Ononuga, when he was the editor-in-chief of the new magazine, he did everything. He went at length to unearth information that was used to remove Salisu Buhari from office. This same Bayo Ononuga, that is now hitting out at people, insulting eminent persons who are trying to build our democracy. He was the one. They went to University of Toronto in Canada and unearthed information that was used to remove Salisu Buhari. And today he sees nothing wrong in doing that against his principal. Is that not anarchy?
Okay. Now,
and for Atiku, Moses, let me come. And for Atiku, you remember I said it here one day that when the Week magazine owned by him wanted to do the same thing to remove Bola Tinubu from office, it was the same Tinubu that approached Atiku and pressured him to persuade his boys to stand down on the publication of that of that very particular edition. That was what led to the resignation of the cable chairman now, Simon Kolawole. So the whole thing has turned around to haunt him. And unfortunately, we are beginning to have a factionalized elite. When it suits them, there's elite consensus. But when it doesn't suit them, it's factionalized. The elite is factionalized now because Atiku does no longer agree, that somebody who is known to have compromised the certificate and compromised the whole process should be protected. So for me, it is the president that is actually the anarchist. We were talking about being Atiku, calling Atiku a kleptomania.
Kleptocrat.
What about the forfeiture? Did anybody talk about the forfeiture again and the drug scandals? And somebody is preventing the FBI and the DOJ from releasing 2,500 pages on his personality in the US. Why is he trying to stop that after everything he did to stop the CSU?
All right. Then.
So, like I said, to me, it is I will just reverse positions for the both of them.
All right. Now, with the issue of appointments, don't you think? I mean, it was just appropriate to give more appointments to the areas that you won elections from, as against because the Southeast, the president basically did not win anything from the Southeast. So should he be blamed for that? If he gives
Moses, it should be, because the moment you become a president, you live above partisan politics. You live above politics. The moment you become a president, you become a father to everybody. And in a country that we are trying to build a nation, out of disparate ethnic groups, the best he could have done is to spread, if not evenly, but something that an appearance of evenness.
All right.
An appearance of evenness. Obasanjo didn't do that, did he? Yar'Adua didn't do that. Even people that did not vote for him, he made sure that everybody got into the system. That is the way to build a nation.
All right.
And the Southeast complained when Buhari left us out of the key political appointments. And this man has gone to do worse than what Buhari did. The other day I saw him, there's a video that is trending now where the president was gaslighting a particular ethnic group, the Southeast, that they come to Lagos when they are 12.
All right, we have a glitch in the network there. Let's stay with Barrister Eze now.
Yeah, Chukwuma mentioned the certificate saga. So going back to the Supreme Court judgment and how everything panned out, do you think they should have conducted another election? Do you think they would have just decided to conduct a fresh election?
Well, what was wrong was for the Supreme Court to use technicalities to try to remove such a weighty issue as a man who forged a certificate and presented it to INEC. Because the Nigerian Constitution is very clear on what happened.
Hello, Moses.
Yes, we'll come back to you now. Let's listen to Barrister Eze.
The Nigerian Constitution is very clear on what happens to people who present forged certificates. They are not qualified for election. So the Supreme Court dubiously tried to use the issue of when the efforts made to retrieve that document. I mean, what the PDP and Atiku did not move fast enough. Why did they wait for so long? That same Supreme Court failed to realize that it was itself who said that a party who is not a member, a person who is a member of a political party cannot inquire into the nomination process, which means that the PDP and Atiku could only have gotten involved with certifying or being sure of the certificates of Mr. Atiku after the elections. But whatever the Supreme Court has done, the fact remains that Mr. Tinubu submitted a forged document to INEC to be allowed to contest this election. So all the technicalities that the Supreme Court was rolling around to allow this same character to become president will not avail Mr. Tinubu, in the sense that the document forged is an American document, which means even if in Nigeria you fail to see those issues, I wouldn't be surprised if some smart folks in the United States said, okay, this man has forged an American document, and they will have a warrant of arrest waiting for him. So it is Nigeria that will suffer that indignity, because the facts are clear. Despite all the efforts of the Supreme Court, Justice Okoro, to go around the facts and focus on the issue of efforts when the efforts were made to establish that fact. But is it a fact that a forged document of an American institution was submitted to INEC? Incontrovertible fact.
Well, as it seems now, it feels like the US and the FBI, because you talked about the FBI issued an arrest.
Yeah.
As it is now, they seem to, have endorsed the, endorsed him.
No.
All right? Mm-hmm. As it is, because reports came out on, in the media that FBI has reneged on releasing the 2,500 page dossier on him.
That is absolute falsehood. In fact, I have in my possession, it's already online on the internet, the first 2 batches of documents released by the FBI.
Can we affirm that this is from the FBI?
I assure you can, because it's even an open document. It's on the FBI file, on the FBI website.
So what do we make of the statement that came out 2 days ago?
By who?
Or was it yesterday?
No, you see, there's a lot of propaganda is going on. People keep on churning out facts. But you see, America is a country that obeys the rule of law, or is governed by the rule of law. So if the courts have ordered the FBI under the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act to release documents, they are duty-bound to release it. If they can go ahead and release documents related to their former president, Trump, who is Bola Tinubu for them not to release documents on him? He can try all his best, he can do all the lobbying and whatever, but when the time comes, documents will be released. What they said they will not do is that they will try to remove documents that bear his name. But what should worry Nigerians is this: if a foreign intelligence or law enforcement outfit has files, criminal files on your president, can those files be used to blackmail him? Can those files be used to ensure that this foreign authority gets what they want from Nigeria? That is what should have operated on the minds of the Supreme Court and other justices when they are allowing this character to get into office. Because ultimately, it will cost Nigeria dearly. And how will it cost Nigeria dearly? You see, I keep on repeating, we had the opportunity to cage and deal with the James Ibori affair as a Nigerian affair. But we failed to do that. Only for that same character to travel abroad and be arrested by Dubai police, sent to UK, serve prison terms in UK, when that issue could have been avoided by tackling it locally. Nigerian Supreme Court thinks they have given a blank check to Mr. Tinubu, but that blank check only operates in Nigeria. I'm assuring that many people will be making all their efforts to also see what can be done to ensure accountability when this man leaves the shore of this country.
All right, now with your years of experience as a lawyer, what do you make of Justice Datijo's comments?
Well, I mean, that he only
CCJN,
yes, Justice Muhammad only said what many of us who have been in practice for about 3 decades know, that corruption has seeped into the judiciary. Corruption, nepotism, all the vices that have afflicted the Nigerian society has seeped into the judiciary. Even the Justice Inyang Okoro, who read the lead judgment, in 2016, this same Justice Inyang Okoro was arrested by the DSS. And his response to the claims leveled by the DSS against him was that efforts were made by Rotimi Amechi, former governor of Rivers State, to bribe him to influence the judgment in the elections in Abia, Rivers, and one other state, and Akwa Ibom.
So why do you think that?
No, the critical issue is this.
He was influenced now.
No, the critical issue is this. This justice made that allegation that an individual tried to bribe you, which is a criminal offense, was Amechi ever prosecuted for that offense which Justice Ian Okoro alleged? The answer is no. So you begin to wonder. So this is the same man who has read this late judgment. And somebody is coming out to say that the Supreme...
Shouldn't we now trust him? I mean, if sometime in the past,
Yes.
he came out to say, look, somebody tried to bribe me and I did not take the bribe. Excuse me.
Okay.
Shouldn't we now say, this is the man whose words we should hold in high esteem? I mean, there are issues. The Supreme Court had the prerogative
Yes.
to either accept new evidence
or not. Good. No, but you see, why you cannot say that is this. You should ensure that that person is prosecuted. Because that is how you, that is the extent it goes. If you do not do that, if you don't go to that extent, that means it's hearsay. It's neither there or here. But that is the character of the person who has now come and read his judgment, which many practitioners, locally and internationally, have serious objections about. You see, we are even focusing too much on this certificate issue. There are salient issues in that judgment which Nigerians have neglected. One of it is the removal of subpoenaed witnesses. All their evidence, their testimony, it was totally removed by the lower court. And this Supreme Court affirmed all the judgments, all the rulings of the lower court. Now, what does subpoena evidence mean? A case has already started and the court orders you to produce a witness who will testify either with documents or orally. And this Presidential Tribunal said those witnesses should have filed their depositions at the commencement of the case. An impossibility. And that is what the Supreme Court has affirmed. One other thing the Supreme Court affirmed is that irrespective of the regulations and bylaws INEC made, we should discountenance all of it, and INEC is free to do whatsoever it wishes. Now, those two issues, to me, are even more critical than the issue of certificate forgery, because those are the fundamentals of our laws. In Nigeria, less than, in fact, over 95% of the rules we obey are bylaws and regulations. And what the Supreme Court has now stamped as a stamp of authority is that all those bylaws and regulations are immaterial, as long as they're not contained in the extant law. And that is, with all due respect, absolute nonsense. But these are the basis on which this jaundiced decision was arrived at. So Nigerians have all the rights to be angered about the process. And then when somebody now, like the Abubakar Atiku, comes out and says, okay, this is wrong, somebody else working for the presidency comes and begins to reel out stuff that are very, very, very derogatory. That's rather unfortunate.
All right.
Chukwuma, so I'll come to you. Do you think Atiku is doing too much? Do you think that this whole thing that Atiku is doing is to get justice for himself, to prove a point, or do you think he's actually doing it to do the right thing? Do you think he should accept Bola Tinubu as his president, just like the president also said that his opposition should accept that he's the president, to welcome him and then help him also do his job as the president? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, the point remains that the Supreme Court has already affirmed the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is Nigeria's president. It's final. That's the final arbiter as far as that matter is concerned. But whether Atiku was doing it for selfish purposes or he was doing it to strengthen Nigeria's democracy, to ensure that the right things are done, that is the fact that Nigerians should appreciate him. Whether he was doing it for his personal gains or, on the other hand, to ensure that Nigeria's democracy is strengthened, Nigerians should appreciate Atiku for going thus far. And if you ask me, I will also add that if other Nigerians had coalesced, and gave Atiku the support that he needed, or not just giving him support, and put enormous pressure, as he did, to ensure that the right things are done, Nigeria will have been better for it at the end of the day. What did he do? He was simply saying, please accept fresh evidence that this man forged his certificate. And the Supreme Court that declined had previously accepted such evidence. And it's part of the rules of the Supreme Court that, look, at a certain time, you can admit fresh evidence to pursue your case. And somebody made some an analogy. You are in the process of adjudicating a matter, and all of a sudden, somebody brings fresh evidence to ensure that, look, what the lower court did is wrong. And the Supreme Court says, no, the evidence is statute bad. What is that supposed to mean? And if at the end of the day, somebody's life is involved, you go ahead and kill the person, even when there is fresh evidence that the person didn't commit that murder. Is there any logic? Can we read any logic in that? Atiku didn't do anything. And the fact remains that whether President Bola Tinubu remains the president or not, as he is now, the fact remains that Nigeria is worse off at the international level, locally, regionally. Nobody trusts us. Our integrity is in the mud. There's intense scrutiny in everything that you do now. The moment you carry a Nigerian passport, you are suspect. It's very unfortunate.
Well, some people will disagree with you in that regard because the German chancellor was in Nigeria not too long ago, and the president seemed to have the endorsement of some international bodies as well. So some people will disagree with you as to whether or not Nigeria is being looked at as a fantastically corrupt nation. Now, with regards to statements made by Chukwuemeka, talking about fresh evidence being admitted to the Supreme Court, what is the position of the law as to? Because I know, there's a part where the law talks about if you admit an evidence and you have not given the accused the opportunity to defend himself, how then can you admit that evidence? I don't know. There's a name for it.
Okay.
In the law.
Now you see, the analogy Chukwuma tried to allude to is very, very factual. When the Supreme Court, in the hearing of the appeals, when they asked the lawyers that which law should we now use? Should we use the Electoral Act or the Nigerian Constitution? That was when people like us got extremely worried that something was definitely very wrong. If at that level, justices are asking, which laws are we going to use to adjudicate this matter? Since the Electoral Act has a provision and the Nigerian Constitution has a different provision. Because it's elementary. First-year students in law know that the ground norm of Nigeria is the Nigerian Constitution. Whatever other laws that conflict with the Nigerian Constitution, to the extent of that conflict, is invalid. So if the Nigerian Constitution provides that anybody who has who brings a forge certificate to INEC is not qualified for elections, you cannot be heard to use any excuses that it was not presented before the tribunal lower court. It was not. If those facts emerge after the tribunal had finished, you use the constitutional provisions and damn the bloody Electoral Act because it's a subsidiary legislation to the Constitution. But you have this instance, Supreme Court justices asking, what laws are we going to apply in a matter? So, and the law, even the Supreme Court orders, the rules, Order 2, paragraph 12 of the Supreme Court rules, does not even it's not compulsory that the Supreme Court will allow the other side to even talk about it. Once the Supreme Court deems it fit to accept that document in evidence, it can now by its own self, okay, what do you have to say? But if it feels it's sufficient, and for goodness sake, in very clear words, Chicago State University affirmed that the document Bola Tinubu submitted to INEC is unknown to it. It's a forged document. And still the Supreme Court went ahead and said because of the Electoral Act, which says you have only 180 days to produce documents and evidence, we're not going to hear these facts. Come on. But the world watched that. Now, you know the consequences of this is that any investor or any foreigner who is coming into Nigeria to do business or whatever, he will now wonder, is this the judiciary that will look into this matter? Because law is not voodoo. It's not juju. Law is applying laws to facts, applying statutes to facts. So it is basically predictable. If you shoot somebody and he dies deliberately, you shoot him deliberately and he dies, you have committed homicide. It could be murder or manslaughter. It cannot be pickpocket or whatever. So, but in this instance, you have these laws that is very, very clear, and then they are being manipulated to achieve preset, predetermined objectives. And it's quite worrisome. What even makes it more worrisome is this. You have a panel of 7 justices. There was not even one dissenting judgment that will say, okay, because at times, you can even take the ratio. You can even take the justice from the dissenting judgment. But it's not. They all agreed on this fallacious stance in law, and that's supposed to be the grundle of the country. Come on, we're really in a mess.
How does this significantly impact on future elections? Your thoughts on this now?
Good. It will just tell people that, look, like Mr. Tinubu said, steal it, grab it, run with it, kill for it if you got to do that, but make sure that you are declared winner by the INEC official. And it has already become one of the fads. I remember that when the former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, went to the Senate, the INEC returning officer was held at gunpoint and told to reel out the results. And INEC even tried to defend the case, but the court told him, okay, whatever, the results have been announced. Also in Tinubu's elections, INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu had told the opposition parties that we will look into your objections and then come and give you a clarification on it. Then around 4 o'clock, this character sneaked out and announced the winner. So the issue is, what this has now told Nigerians is this: damn all the consequences, steal it, grab it, and run with it. And that is very unfortunate. But it makes the coming elections in Imo State, the 3 elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo, being conducted by the same characters in INEC, who have still told us that they will use the IREV and the Beavers. Who will trust those characters? When the Supreme Court has now said, irrespective of what INEC says or what the bylaw says, INEC can do whatsoever. So in Imo State, in Kogi and Bayelsa, those who are contesting elections know that despite what the law says, the regulation says, the INEC chairman can just wake up and declare somebody the winner. So it has adversely impacted on current and future elections. And in fact, it has given a very deep stab wound at the heart of democracy in Nigeria. Because what we run now cannot be called a democracy. It cannot be called government of the people, by the people, for the people. It cannot even be referred to as government based on elections. Because the person who won, the person who is declared winner, are total variance with what transpired at the polling units. So we don't have a democracy in essence.
That brings me to this question. The Supreme Court verdict was slated for, I think, 11th of November or 7th of November. Mm-hmm. And then also the documents were supposed to be published on the 31st of October. Yeah. But then the verdict was moved forward. Mm-hmm. Why the rush? What was the reason behind that?
Well, I mean, without any, you don't need to be a magician, because this FBI had promised that they will release the first batch of documents before the end of October, which they've actually done. They have released the first batch of documents before the end of October. And in those documents, they refer to Mr. Bola Tinubu as a drug kingpin.
And you say you have
I have copy, yes. They refer to him in that words. So perhaps, I'm not saying that's what transpired. That is what the Supreme Court tried to avoid. To say, okay, we didn't know. But before the elections, before their judgment, they were put on notice. They cannot claim that they don't know, because these facts were all there in the open. It was just, we are waiting for the official documentations to come out. So they cannot claim ignorance. I mean, and like I keep on saying, we are all in this together. Nigerians will bear the brunt of, whether it was good or bad, but we're going to bear the brunt of all this together. And we are already seeing the consequences.
Mm. All right, then. Well, I must... Baris, sorry, I was going to call you...
Chukuma.
Yes, Chukuma Okoro. Let's get your concluding thoughts on this before we move on to the next topic. I was going to give you the title of barrister now.
Mostly, before I conclude, I want to take you on people disagreeing that the Supreme Court judgment will not impact negatively on Nigeria's image abroad. You see, nations do have their specific national interests, and nations are categorized as democracy, quasi-democracy. Some of them are authoritarian, some of them are neither here nor there. The fact that the German president paid a visit to Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu in the midst of all these imbroglio doesn't detract from the fact that Nigeria's image abroad is under intense scrutiny. Germany could be pursuing their specific national interests with reasons known to them. It's like if you talk about international political idiosyncrasies, you look at the Chinese. If you talk about human rights, you are not talking to Chinese. If you like, slaughter yourselves. If you like, while the genocide was going on in Burundi, in Chinese were inside there working, and they didn't give a damn. So, and those people that say that this thing will not impact on us negatively are merely living on denial. Because if you go to the airports, if you go to the points of entry into so many countries, the green passport, you are treated as a pariah person, whether we like it or not, and that's the truth of the matter. Anybody that wants to disagree can disagree, but incidentally, that is what Nigeria has become. My thoughts are this. First, Atiku Abubakar, kudos to him. I give him thumbs up because he cannot be an anarchist. He's a peacemaker. He's a nation builder. And many people tend to forget that Atiku did few things to strengthen our democracy. His disagreement with his principal, Olusegun Obasanjo, and the matter that went up to the, Supreme Court ensured that a president, a governor cannot just wake up and remove his vice or his deputy, like happened during in the first tranche of the Fourth Republic. You remember, even the president now had 3 deputy governors. I'm not sure any governor can do that right away. So we give credit to Atiku for that. There's so many things. The man tried to strengthen our democracy. And whether we like it or not, the fact that he even went to Chicago to say, look, and got Chicago University to say the certificate we gave to this man is not the one that he submitted to INEC. At a point in time, CSU even denied issuing any certificate to him. So the facts of the matter are very clear. We can live in denial as long as we like, but the Nigerians know the truth. Nigerians know the truth. So Atiku is clearly not an anarchist. And if you talk about kleptomania, well, Nigerians know the facts too.
Thank you,
Chukwuma.
Thank you, Chukwuma. Mr. Eze.
Yes.
Barrister Eze. Barrister Eze. So, do you have concluding thoughts?
Well, my concluding thoughts are that Nigeria is going through very trying times, and we just have to brace up. And it is only those who are speaking up against what is going on now that have restrained the image of Nigeria. If we had all kept quiet and allowed somebody who had a history of drug trafficking, money laundering, certificate forgery to rule over us without any opposition, the whole world would believe that indeed this is a country of fraudsters. But the opposition to that process by those who have raised the voices is what has given the world that indeed this is not the wish of Nigerians. And so yes, they may be downtrodden now, they may be suppressed, but there are some people who raise their voices against infamy. Wole Soyinka said the dead is the man who keeps silent in the face of infamy. So those of us who have spoken up against illegalities and all this criminality, we are not dead. It is those who kept quiet that are really dead. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay with us. Up next on VOP this morning, Wike Fubara meets at Aso Villa a day after an attempted failed impeachment on Fubara by Wike's allegedly loyalists. Let's discuss this in a moment.